the circle of control. You are lying in the dark, trying to rest, but the weight of the day is heavy on your chest. The unresolved conflicts, the endless tasks, the worries about tomorrow, they all circle in your mind. But what if you could just let it all go? What if you could find absolute stillness right now, regardless of the chaos happening in the world around you? This is not a modern trick. It is a 2,000-year-old realization. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and knew ultimate powerlessness, observed that human beings spend most of their lives agonizing over things they cannot change. He offered a simple, yet profound, rule for a peaceful life. Some things are in our control and others not. Think about your day today. How much of your energy was drained by the traffic, the opinions of your co-workers, or the unpredictable nature of the world? We mark out a path in our thoughts, expecting the journey to be smooth. And when we hit bumps and potholes, we become frustrated and exhausted. We react to the outside world as if it ought to be completely controllable. But the Stoics realize that trying to control the uncontrollable is the root of human anxiety. Epictetus taught that we only control our own opinions, our pursuits, our desires, and our aversions. In short, we control our own actions and our own mind. We do not control our bodies, our property, our reputation, or our status. Epictetus's words may be more familiar to you in the form of the famous Serenity Prayer, which asks for the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This wisdom is the very foundation of Stoic practice. Imagine you are embarking on a sea voyage. You can choose the best ship, hire the most experienced sailors, and prepare as much as possible. But once you set sail, you cannot control the direction or the intensity of the winds. If a storm arises, getting angry at the sky changes nothing. Your anxiety does not calm the waves. The Stoics tell us we should pay attention to the parameters in life's equation that we actually control, and then let the universe run as it will. This simple act of surrender will save you an enormous amount of energy and worry. As you lie here tonight, visualize drawing a circle around yourself. Inside this circle is your mind, your choices, and your character. Everything outside of this circle, the past, the future, other people's actions, belongs to the universe. You do not own it, and you cannot dictate it. To find true serenity, you must deeply internalize that you cannot guarantee these external, indifferent things will turn out the way you wish. When we desperately want things that are not in our power, we become anxious. A musician might sing beautifully alone, but when they step on stage, they become anxious because they don't just want to sing well, they want the crowd's applause, which is entirely beyond their control. Stop performing for the crowd of the universe. Relieve yourself of the burden of the world's outcomes. You have done your best today. The results are no longer yours to carry. As Epictetus wisely noted, it is not the reality outside of us that confuses us or makes us sad or angry. It is our thoughts and judgments about that reality. You have the power to withdraw your harsh judgments about today. The Stoic promise is this: if you train yourself to only want what is completely in your control, you will always get what you want. leading to a state of profound peace. Breathe in that freedom. But you might be thinking, that sounds great in theory, but how do I actually stop caring when things go genuinely wrong and life feels unfair? That is exactly what the Stoics mastered. There is a profound mental shift, a single change in perspective that can instantly turn your biggest pain into your greatest advantage. But we will explore that life-changing truth in the next part. The moving cart and loving your fate. The mental shift, that single change in perspective, is not merely about gritting your teeth and tolerating a bad situation. It is about actively embracing it. The ancient Stoics called this amor fati, a love of fate. It means that you do not just passively accept what happens to you, you actually will it to happen, finding joy and purpose in the journey regardless of the unexpected bumps in the road. To truly understand this, imagine a dog leashed to a heavy, moving cart. The cart represents the universe, or fate, moving steadily forward in its own determined, unchangeable direction. The dog has two distinct choices. It can choose to trot joyfully alongside the cart, keeping pace, exploring the path, and enjoying the journey as it unfolds. Or the dog can stubbornly dig its paws into the dirt, fighting the leash, whining, and struggling against the inevitable pull of the heavy cart. What happens to the second dog? It finds itself dragged roughly along the pavement anyway, suffering pain, exhaustion, and misery. The destination remains exactly the same for both dogs, but the emotional experience of the journey is entirely different. As human beings, we are tied to the cart of the universe. Things will happen tomorrow, and the day after. That will interrupt your plans, shatter your expectations, and test your patience. When you resist these unchangeable realities, when you scream at the traffic, curse a sudden illness, or agonizingly replay a mistake from earlier today, you are the dog fighting the leash. You are wrongly assuming you have a choice in the matter, and that futile resistance is the very source of your suffering. You cannot control the cart, but you are entirely free to choose whether you run with it or get dragged. Consider how you handle physical discomfort or sudden setbacks. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who lived much of his life with a lame leg, observed that sickness or physical limitations are an impediment to the body, but never an impediment to the mind, unless the mind itself chooses to be hindered. Pain is to the body, not the core of who you are. You can choose to endure an ache bravely, or you can complain and whine about it, adding heavy mental distress to a simple physical sensation. The choice is always yours. Another powerful way to loosen your grip on the leash is to practice what the Stoics called otherizing. Think about how you react when someone else experiences a minor misfortune. If a friend accidentally breaks a glass, you are quick to comfort them, saying, "It is just a part of life. These things happen." You view their problem objectively and maintain perfect equanimity. Yet, when that exact same glass breaks in your own home, it suddenly feels like a profound tragedy. We say, "Poor me. Why does this always happen to me?" By stepping back and looking at your own life as if it were happening to a friend, you instantly take the emotional sting out of the situation. You become a wiser guide to yourself, offering quiet sympathy instead of magnifying the internal turmoil. Every difficulty in life presents you with a quiet opportunity to turn inward and invoke your own submerged inner resources. The trials you endure are simply there to introduce you to your own strengths. As the Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle is not blocking your path. The obstacle is your path. As you rest here, scan your body for any lingering tension. Where are you still fighting the leash? Where are you wishing today had gone differently? Breathe into that resistance, and as you exhale, release the struggle. Say to yourself, "I accept this. I embrace this. This too is part of my training." Let the cart of the universe pull you forward into peace. But here is the part that often keeps us awake at night, staring into the dark. What if the pain you are feeling wasn't caused by a random event or a broken glass? What if someone insulted you, betrayed you, or treated you incredibly unfairly today? How can you possibly find peace when someone else has intentionally caused you harm? This next idea changes everything about how you deal with difficult people. The fortress of the mind. Think about a moment today when someone's words felt like a physical strike against you. Perhaps a coworker undermined you, a stranger cut you off in traffic, or someone you love spoke to you with unwarranted sharpness. As you lie in bed, these memories often replay in the quiet dark, causing your heart rate to rise and your muscles to tense. You feel justified in your anger, completely convinced that this other person has harmed you. But the ancient Stoics challenged this very natural human assumption. Epictetus offered a powerful piece of guidance that can instantly dissolve your resentment. Remember that it is not he who gives abuse or blows, who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. He understood that an insult is essentially a three-step process. First, someone says something meant to be offensive. Second, you interpret what they said as an offense. Third, you react. If you remove your participation, if you refuse to take that second step, the insult simply falls flat. The person trying to harm you is powerless unless you willingly hand over your consent. As Epictetus noted, another person cannot truly harm you unless you desire it. You are only harmed the exact moment you allow yourself to be. Imagine taking a walk and deciding to stand next to a large stone. If you were to yell at the stone, criticize it, and insult its appearance, what would happen? The stone would do absolutely nothing. It would not weep. It would not defend itself. And it certainly would not lose sleep. If you can learn to listen to the baseless criticisms of others like a stone, the person hurling the insults is left looking entirely foolish. You possess a citadel within your mind, a fortress that no external force can penetrate unless you lower the drawbridge. To practically apply this, we can look to the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Despite being the most powerful man in the world, he dealt with betrayal, greed, and incompetence on a daily basis. To protect his peace, he began a daily morning routine. He would tell himself, "Today I shall encounter meddling, ingratitude, violence, cunning, jealousy, self-seeking, all of them the results of men not knowing what is good and what is evil." This was not pessimism. It was a profound psychological armor. Marcus recognized that people do bad things out of ignorance, not necessarily out of pure malice. When someone treats you poorly, they are acting on a false impression. They genuinely believe that their behavior is right or beneficial for them in that moment, because they are operating under a delusion. They are the ones who are actually damaged by their own actions. A person who acts with cruelty stains their own character. When you truly internalize this, your anger transforms into something much softer pity. You would not be angry at a person who is physically blind for bumping into you. In the same way, the Stoics believed we should feel compassion for those who are morally blind. They are navigating the world without the most precious human gift, wisdom. As you settle deeper into your pillows, think of the person who frustrated you today. Visualize them not as a monster, but as someone who is simply mistaken, wandering in the dark. Release the tight grip of your indignation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that human beings are meant to cooperate, just like the upper and lower rows of teeth in our mouths. To hold on to resentment and turn away from our fellow humans is contrary to our very nature. You do not have to be best friends with those who hurt you, but you can forgive them. If you ever hear that someone is speaking ill of you, do not waste energy defending yourself. Instead, silently adopt the ultimate Stoic humor. Tell yourself they simply didn't know about all your other faults, or they wouldn't have stopped at mentioning just those. Let the petty grievances of the day wash away. Your mind is your own. But as you drift toward sleep, a different, quieter fear often creeps in. What happens when the anxiety keeping you awake isn't about what people think of you, but the terrifying fear of losing everything you have? This next idea changes everything about how we value our possessions, our status, and our comfort. The river of change and letting go. As you lie here, surrounded by the walls of your room, think about the things you own: your clothes, your car, your savings, your reputation. We spend our days desperately building these nests of comfort. We gather and we guard. But in the quiet of the night, this gathering often transforms into a quiet, humming anxiety. We become terrified of losing what we have worked so hard to acquire. We become possessed by our possessions. But here is a profound truth from the Stoics: the more external things you own, the more you are subject to the unpredictable winds of chance. The ancient philosophers understood that attaching our inner peace to external objects is a recipe for endless worry. A sage, as the Stoic philosopher Seneca pointed out, remains completely unaffected by either maintaining or losing their possessions. While we may not be perfect sages, we can still train ourselves to loosen our tight grip on the material world. The goal is to prove to yourself, deeply and undeniably, that you do not need to own things to be happy. Imagine, for a moment, that the things you value most were suddenly swept away. How much of your actual identity would go with them? The Stoic answer is none of it. Your true worth, your character, and your ability to reason remain entirely intact, completely untouched by material loss. But there is a deeper layer to this fear, isn't there? It is not just the loss of physical objects that keeps us awake. It is the terrifying reality of impermanence. At some level, we all know that nothing lasts forever. But the fact that we haven't fully accepted this becomes painfully obvious the moment we get upset over a loss. We cry over a broken heirloom. We mourn a lost job. And, most painfully, we grieve when we lose the people we love. We treat the people and the situations in our lives as if they are permanent fixtures, guaranteed to be there when we wake up. Yet, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a soothing, liberating perspective on this exact fear. He wrote that the nature of the universe delights in nothing more than in altering those things that are, and making new things in their place. Every single thing that exists is, in a way, simply the seed of that which will eventually be. Change is not a tragedy. It is the very fabric of existence. Time is like a violent stream, a rushing river made up of the events which happen. As soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place, only to be carried away too. When you resist this flowing river, you suffer. When you settle your contentment entirely in present things, you grow to overprize them, and the inevitable want of them becomes a deep vexation to your soul. So, how do we find peace in a world where everything is slipping through our fingers? By changing how we love the world. The Stoics teach us to love the people and the things in our lives sincerely, but without the illusion of ownership. You do not own your status. You do not own your youth. You are simply borrowing these experiences from the universe. As you breathe in slowly, visualize opening your tightly clenched hands. Let the imaginary sand of your possessions and your anxieties slip through your fingers. You are safe, right here, right now. The universe is managing the flow of time, and you do not need to control the river. You only need to float. You are composed of material that will eventually change into some other part of the universe, forever and ever. And there is a strange, quiet beauty in being part of that endless, natural rhythm. But as you learn to let go of the external world, another massive weight often reveals itself in the quiet of the night. It is the crushing pressure of your own expectations. It is the frustration that life and other people are simply not doing what they are supposed to do. What if the secret to never being disappointed again was a simple shift in what you expect from tomorrow? This next idea changes everything about how you build resilience. The secret to building resilience. You plan your days with the best of intentions. We mark out a path in our thoughts, expecting the real journey to be completely smooth. But life's actual path is inevitably full of bumps, potholes, and sudden pitfalls. When we encounter these unexpected obstacles, we consider that they are frustrating our goals, completely forgetting that the need to cope with these exact bumps should be included in our goals from the very beginning. Why does a sudden traffic jam, a delayed flight, or a canceled meeting trigger such a massive surge of stress in your body? The ancient Stoics pinpointed the exact cause of this daily, agonizing suffering: unrealistic expectations. We suffer deeply because there is a profound disconnect between what we desperately want to happen and what actually happens in reality. Much of our distress is directly caused by our stubborn failure to anticipate how things might go wrong. To completely soften the blow of these daily misfortunes, the Stoics practiced a technique known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of future adversity. This is not about being a dark pessimist. Rather, Stoics are among the most realistic of people. always mentally prepared for the undeniable fact that things will not always go their way. By regularly focusing your mind on potentially bad scenarios, you actively remind yourself that you possess the inner resources to deal with them. As the Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "Everyone has greater fortitude in arriving at a situation for which he has long prepared himself, and hardships that have been anticipated can also be withstood." In stark contrast, utterly trivial things can terrify and break people who are completely unprepared for them. Imagine you are sitting in a motionless car, running late for an important job interview. You might become so distressed and clouded by your passion that you cannot even bring yourself to call the interviewer to explain, thereby failing to act in your own best interest. If you had properly anticipated the traffic, you could have approached the delay with calm equanimity and made the rational choice to call ahead. By actively rehearsing misfortunes in your mind, you strip these potential difficulties of their power to surprise and shock you. So, how do you practically protect your inner peace from an unpredictable tomorrow? You must learn to actively internalize your goals and apply what the Stoics called the reserve clause. Suppose you are up for a major promotion at work. You might feel confident because of your good performance, but the final outcome depends on factors completely outside your control, like office politics or your boss's mood. If your absolute goal is simply to get the promotion, you are making yourself highly vulnerable to disappointment. Instead, a Stoic shifts their objective to something completely within their power. I will put together the best possible promotion file and do my absolute best. Whenever you set an intention, you must explicitly remind yourself that your plans could go awry. You should say to yourself, "I will sail across the ocean if nothing prevents me." Or, "Tomorrow, I will go to the beach, fate permitting." By attaching "fate permitting" to your every expectation, you keep your mind infinitely elastic and adaptable. This mental reverse clause gives you profound peace over whatever the outcome will be, because you deeply understand that a wise person never confuses their personal aspirations with how the universe will ultimately behave. As you lie in bed tonight, think about the firm plans you have for tomorrow. You want to accomplish your tasks, impress your peers, and enjoy a perfectly quiet evening. Now, gently loosen your grip on those desires and introduce the reserve clause. Silently say to yourself, "I will accomplish these things tomorrow, fate permitting." Breathe in that profound flexibility. If tomorrow brings rain, traffic, or a difficult conversation, you will not be broken because you did not demand impossible perfection from the world. But once you've learned to soften your expectations, a new question quietly emerges in the dark. If the outcomes of our lives are entirely up to fate, why should we try hard at all? How do you find the unstoppable drive to keep pushing forward when you know you might fail? This next idea changes everything about how you define success and ambition. The Stoic archer and true success. If the outcomes of our lives are entirely up to fate, why should we try hard at all? Why not just give up, sit down, and let the universe drag us along? It is a natural question to ask as you lie here in the quiet dark. If you do not control the final result, ambition can feel somewhat pointless. But the ancient Stoics were not passive, resigned people. They were teachers, politicians, generals, and even emperors, hardly the sort of people who would have fallen into a fatalistic torpor. They possessed an unstoppable drive, yet they maintained perfect tranquility. How did they balance this? They did it by completely redefining what success actually means. To understand this secret, we must look to a beautiful metaphor passed down by the Roman philosopher Cicero. Imagine an archer preparing to shoot an arrow at a target. Think about the intense focus required. The archer has a number of things completely under his control. He has decided how much to train and how intensely. He has chosen a bow and an arrow based on the distance. He has aimed to the absolute best of his ability, and he has chosen the exact moment to let the arrow go. He has done everything within his human power to accomplish his goal. He takes a slow, deep breath, and he releases the string. But the very millisecond that arrow leaves the bow, it is no longer his. A sudden gust of wind could alter its course. A carriage might unexpectedly pass between him and the target. The target itself, perhaps an enemy soldier, might suddenly move away. Whether or not the arrow actually hits the center of the target is now entirely out of his hands. Because of this undeniable reality, Cicero concluded something that sounds beautifully cryptic. The actual hitting of the mark is to be chosen, but not to be desired. The Stoic archer does not tie his self-worth or his emotional peace to the arrow hitting the bullseye. His true goal was never the target itself. His goal was to shoot as perfectly as he possibly could. We spend our lives agonizing because we attach our happiness to the target. We want the promotion. We want the business to succeed. We want the person to love us back. But these outcomes depend on the winds of the universe, office politics, market fluctuations, the feelings of other people. When we make these external results our absolute goals, we hand our peace of mind over to chance. We become anxious, pacing the floors, staring at the clock, sacrificing our serenity to a future we cannot dictate. The Stoic solution is to completely internalize your goals. You shift your objective away from the external target and place it entirely on your own effort. You do not control if you win the tennis match, but you completely control playing to the absolute best of your ability. You do not control if you get the promotion, but you control putting together the best possible file and being the most diligent worker you can be. If your desire is directed properly towards simply doing the best job you are capable of doing, you cannot possibly fail. In fact, if you do your best at every moment, you have already succeeded the moment you take action. Everything in a peaceful life revolves around this simple concept of doing your best. Happiness is not found in the passive accumulation of wealth or honors, but in this active, noble attitude. By internalizing your goals, you become completely invincible. As Epictetus taught, if you refuse to enter contests where the outcome is out of your control, you will never lose. You win the game of life by redefining the victory condition. As you lie here, listening to the rhythm of your own breathing, think about the targets you missed today. Perhaps you failed at a task, or a project didn't go as planned, or you fell short of an expectation. Gently ask yourself, Did I draw the bow to the best of my ability? Did I aim with good intentions? If the answer is yes, then you have nothing to regret. You shot the arrow beautifully. The wind simply blew it off course. Release the heavy burden of the outcome. It was never yours to carry. But as you learn to find peace in your actions and let go of the results, a much more intimate fear often surfaces in the silence of the night. What happens when the obstacle isn't a missed career goal, but a betrayal by your own physical body? What happens when you face illness, aging, or chronic pain? How can you possibly maintain this serene fortress of the mind when you are physically hurting? This next idea changes everything about how we experience suffering. The body's aches and the mind's citadel. You are lying here, trying to rest, but perhaps you notice a lingering ache in your back, a tension in your neck, or a chronic discomfort that seems to follow you everywhere. When our bodies hurt or fall ill, it is incredibly easy to feel betrayed. We feel as though the universe has unfairly targeted us, and we lie awake wishing we could just feel normal again. But the ancient Stoics had a profoundly different relationship with physical suffering, one that can bring you deep comfort right now. Consider the philosopher Epictetus. He lived much of his life with a lame leg, an enduring physical limitation. Yet he did not view this as a tragedy. He famously taught that sickness is an impediment to the body, but not to the will, unless the will itself chooses to be hindered. Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the mind. The Stoics recognized a fundamental distinction between the physical vessel we inhabit and the ruling faculty of our consciousness. The pain you might be feeling belongs to the body, not the core of who you are. You can choose to endure an ache bravely, or you can whine and complain about it, adding a heavy layer of mental distress to a simple physical sensation. The choice is entirely up to you. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who suffered from severe, chronic respiratory issues and was often bedridden, knew this intimate battle with the body well. He realized that every illness brings a psychological battle, but he discovered a comforting rule about physical pain. It is either severe and brief, or it is chronic and endurable. Nature, in her great mercy, designed us so that pain cannot be both excruciating and everlasting. If it is extreme, it will pass or numb itself. If it lingers, it is something you can build the strength to tolerate. But here is the most crucial part of Seneca's wisdom for your rest tonight. He warned us not to make our own sufferings harder to bear by burdening ourselves with complaints. Pain is a trivial matter when it is not augmented by our own negative beliefs. As Seneca wrote, a person is only as wretched as they have convinced themselves that they are. If you lie in the dark and tell yourself, "This is unbearable. I am so miserable. Why is this happening to me?" you are actively manufacturing suffering. You are taking a pure physical signal and wrapping it in a suffocating blanket of misery. Instead, the Stoics practiced isolating the pain. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with fragile health throughout his reign, reminded himself that the mind can maintain its own tranquility by retiring into itself, ensuring that the ruling faculty is not made worse by the body's struggles. If a part of your body hurts, let that part suffer, but do not let your mind agree that you are being harmed on a soul level. just as a stone remains unaffected when the wind blows against it. Your mind can observe the body's discomfort without surrendering its peace. This isn't merely some ancient, mystical trick. Modern science echoes this exactly. Researchers have found that catastrophic thinking around pain, worrying about it, complaining about it, fearing it, actually intensifies the physical sensation. When we use our judgments to reframe the pain, to tell ourselves, "I can handle this," we physically suffer less. As you breathe slowly in and out, scan your body. Notice any areas of tension or discomfort. Instead of tensing up against them, simply observe them. Say to yourself, "This is a sensation in the body. It does not touch my mind. It does not diminish my character." Withdraw your complaints. You are safe in the citadel of your mind, a fortress that no physical ache can conquer unless you open the gates. But as we learn to detach from physical pain, an even deeper, more profound anxiety often waits in the quietest hours of the night. It is the ultimate fear, the fear of our own mortality, of growing old, and of our time running out. What if the fear of death is the very thing preventing you from truly living? This next idea changes everything about how we view the end. Listen to the quiet ticking of the clock or the steady rhythm of your own heart. In the silence of the night, a profound and universal anxiety often whispers to us the fear of time running out. We worry about aging, about missing out, and ultimately, about death. It is the heaviest burden we carry. But what if realizing the truth about death was the exact key to unlocking a perfectly peaceful life? The ancient Stoics did not shy away from this topic. They looked it straight in the eye. The philosopher Epictetus boldly stated that death itself is nothing terrible. What is terrible is our notion of death, the belief that it is something dreadful. When we are disturbed or grieved by the thought of the end, it is our own uninstructed judgments causing the pain. We treat death as a terrifying thief waiting in the distant future. But the Roman philosopher Seneca offered a revolutionary shift in perspective. We are fundamentally wrong to think that death lies only ahead of us. The truth is, much of death has already passed us by, because whatever time has already passed is owned by death. As Seneca wrote, "We die every day. Every single day a part of our life is taken from us, from childhood to youth to right now, and even today is divided with death as it goes by." When you realize that the past already belongs to death, you stop fearing it as a sudden, shocking future event and recognize it as a natural, ongoing process. Why does this thought bring peace? Because it frees you from the frantic, desperate clinging that ruins the present moment. Seneca observed that many people grasp and hold on to life like those caught in a rushing stream, frantically clutching at weeds and sharp rocks. They are hopelessly tossed about between the fear of death and the torments of life. They do not want to live, but they do not know how to die. When you cast off your anxious solicitude for life, you instantly make life enjoyable. You no longer live in a state of suspended terror, waiting for the other shoe to drop. To practically apply this, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius used a powerful mental exercise. He told himself, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." As you lie in bed right now, try this. Imagine that your life has officially ended today. You have crossed the finish line. All your worries, your debts, your social standing, your unread emails, they are instantly gone. Breathe out that immense relief. Now, imagine waking up tomorrow morning. That new day is not a guarantee. It is a sheer, unexpected bonus. It is entirely extra. How differently would you treat your family? How trivial would the traffic jam feel when you view your remaining time as a bonus? Gratitude effortlessly replaces anxiety. The Stoics remind us that we are part of a massive, beautiful cosmic cycle. Death is simply the time for your material part to be restored to the elements of which it was composed. There is nothing dreadful in that. It is not a loss to the universe, but a natural, seamless alteration. Marcus Aurelius noted that a wise person waits for death with a cheerful mind, recognizing it as nothing more than a dissolution of the elements of every living being. If there is no harm to the elements themselves in continually changing into another, why should we have any apprehension about the dissolution of all things? It is according to nature, and nothing natural is evil. Let the weight of mortality slip from your shoulders. You do not need to fight the flow of time. You only need to use the present moment well, knowing it is the only thing you truly possess and the only thing you can ever lose. You are safe right here, resting in the quiet dark. But as you learn to accept the natural flow of time and let go of your deepest fears, the final piece of the puzzle remains. If you are to wake up tomorrow and live this bonus time properly, what exactly is the goal? What is the final destination of a Stoic mind? This final idea brings every lesson together, showing you exactly how to build a truly unshakable life starting tomorrow morning. The daily practice and the final surrender. You are lying here. The night is deep, and the lessons of the ancient world are finally settling into your mind. But philosophy is not merely a comforting thought to entertain in the dark. It is a practical tool designed to be lived in the harsh light of day. The philosopher Epictetus warned his students not to be satisfied with mere learning, but to actively add practice and training to their daily lives. As time passes, we easily forget what we have learned and end up falling back into our old, anxious habits. As you drift toward sleep tonight, you must prepare for the exact moment you open your eyes tomorrow. How do you take these ancient secrets and build a truly unshakable life starting tomorrow morning? First, you must wake up and completely abandon the expectation of perfection. Epictetus once challenged his students, saying, "Show me someone sick and happy, in danger and happy, dying and happy, exiled and happy. By God, how much I'd like to see a Stoic." He understood that finding a perfectly formed, flawless human being was impossible. Instead, he asked to see someone who was actively forming themselves, someone who was a dedicated work in progress. Tomorrow, you will undoubtedly face the same traffic, the same frustrating people, and the same unexpected obstacles. But you will step into the world differently. You will remember the reserve clause, telling yourself that you will do your absolute best. Fate permitting, by accepting that the ultimate outcome is beyond your control, you protect your peace of mind from the inevitable bumps in the road. When a sudden frustration hits you tomorrow, You will practice the ultimate Stoic defense, the pause. Anger and anxiety are dangerous because they are so incredibly fast. They rush upon you, grab your attention, and prohibit you from thinking clearly. But you now possess a powerful weapon against them. When someone insults you or a careful plan suddenly falls apart, you will catch that initial impression before it can mutate into a heavy, suffocating emotion. You will silently say to that thought, "You are just an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be." By pausing, you open up a quiet space in your mind. In that space lies your ultimate freedom. You do not have to agree with the negative thought. You can simply let it pass like a dark cloud drifting across a vast, empty sky. And when you feel overwhelmed by the sheer, crushing weight of your daily responsibilities, you must not let the big picture of your life oppress you. Do not drown in the regrets of the past or the terrifying uncertainties of the future. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius advised us to ask ourselves in the midst of difficulty, what is there in this present work that I cannot endure or support? Focus only on the single step immediately in front of you. You are only required to live right here, right now. As the ancient texts remind us, the present moment is the only thing you truly possess, and the only thing you can ever actually lose. The rest is simply imagination. Finally, when tomorrow ends and you find yourself back in this quiet bed, you will practice the most grounding Stoic habit of all, the evening review. Seneca taught that what makes us terrible people is that no one looks back over their own life to examine their actions. As you lie in the dark tomorrow night, you will gently ask yourself, what malady did I cure today? What flaw did I resist? In what way am I better? You will review your actions, but you will do so with profound compassion. We are not privy to the complex stories behind other people's actions, and we often stumble in our own. So we must forgive over and over again. You will forgive yourself for your mistakes, knowing you are doing the best you can. And you will simply prepare to do better the next day. Now, it is time to truly rest. Let the lingering tension completely leave your muscles. You have drawn your circle of control. Everything outside of that circle belongs to the universe. Everything inside it is safely yours. The card of fate will keep moving, but you no longer need to fight the leash. You are the archer who has shot the arrow. The wind will do what it will, but your mind remains perfectly still. Let the violent stream of time flow around you. You don't control life, but you always control yourself. The world will still be there tomorrow, but right now, in this quiet moment, your only duty is to rest. You have armed your mind with the wisdom of the ancients. You have drawn your circle, and you know that everything outside of it is no longer your concern. If these Stoic lessons brought you a sense of peace tonight, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps us share this quiet refuge with others who might be carrying a heavy burden and desperately need to rest. Let me know in the comments which idea resonated with you the most, so we can continue building this fortress of the mind together. But for now, just close your eyes. Release your grip on the day. Breathe in the profound stillness. Sleep well, knowing you are entirely prepared for whatever fate brings tomorrow. Good night.